with another episode of Research over Mesearch. Just got back from the beautiful city of Philadelphia, where I was able to attend the 8th annual Black Men in Education Conference. With that being said, I think it's very appropriate that we start with this Juelz Santana clip of him talking about how kids don't need to learn how to read; they should learn how to rhyme. They should learn how to do businesses. But I didn't want to misquote him or make it where I'm just, you feel me, putting words in his mouth. So of course I went and found the clip. Uh, Before we get in that clip though.
Spontaneous percussion.
Yes, man. So as I pull this clip up, it's important for me to talk about and just acknowledge that only 1.5% of educators in America are Black men. And that when Black students have at least one Black teacher by the age of, I think, by the grade of third grade, I believe, is that their graduation rates, I believe, go up 8%, and their rates of going to college increase by 18%. And those numbers increase higher when we have more Black teachers that Black students are seeing. I think our boy Juelz Santana would have benefited greatly had he had him a nice Black educator. Without further ado, though, because I don't want to put no words in his mouth, here he is.
No, but seriously though, you should though. We gotta start teaching our kids though, just financial wealth and literacy and all that. That shit early, because by the time they get to 9th grade, they should be just learning how to start businesses and how to. But they don't really need to know how to read.
Wait, stop.
I ain't gonna say that. I say that respectfully. I'm not saying that in a way to be illiterate, because you're not supposed to be illiterate, but you can.
What's more important, reading or math?
Math.
Told you.
Math. I think you could
I'm gonna try to be as sympathetic as possible, because I know that he genuinely believes this and that he has good intentions. I'm gonna assume that he's doing this in good faith, right? They tricked him into the question, which one is more important, reading or math? Well, I can see how we should argue reading, but I think both of them are very, very important. When you have Juelz Santana engaging in this anti-intellectualism, think about all the youngsters that look up to him in the city of New York, and they hear him make this statement that devalues education. Right now, we have Donald Trump putting an amazing assault on education, stripping away all the funding from education, as well as, guys, my glasses keep on getting foggy. I mean, my glasses got some smears on it, as well as taking away the ability for our students to learn about the history of Black people. So when we talk about being able to, when I get the clip going on, the guy gonna give him everyday examples of why you need to read, and that has nothing to do with building a business. But this is why capitalism got us fucked up. Is that a lot of us are start to put more value into this idea of building a business, and we start to think that once you get out of 8th grade, you have reached your level of literacy, and you don't no longer need to think about reading no more. Like, nah, or you don't need to master reading anymore. I feel like anti-intellectualism has impacted our communities in more ways than some. Where when I press play, you're gonna see how he start to feel it in his chest, because you got other dudes that's being like, yeah.
Into a book on YouTube, you can still obtain the information. And you don't have to know how to read. Reading and understanding. I believe common sense is better than everything. I'm a common sense nigga. I'd rather have zero book smarts and common sense, be able to read the room, be able to read life, be able to read people. I try to understand people, understand, you know what I'm saying? Like,
common sense, a lot of times, is based off of experiences, and allows for us to have a common understanding. That's why it's common sense for us to think that evidence-based, that experience-based, perspective is going to be able to get in the way of the evidence-based experience or the evidence-based perspective. And it's just this idea that because you're able to go to Chat GPT, now this allows for you to be able to not have to read contracts or not have to read. At this conference that I went to in Philadelphia, we discussed a lot about the way artificial intelligence is impacting the classroom. And, we had some philosophical debates about how some people are what I'm going to call cruel optimists. They are cruelly only thinking about the optimistic ways that artificial intelligence can, help the classroom experience, or help somebody buy some more convenience in their day, or help somebody be able to build a curriculum. And it's like that type of experiencing, experiencing value in that type of convenience through AI allows for us to marginalize all the various ways that the environment and all the various ways that our communities is already seen as exposable and disposable, that comes to be continually marginalized. Not only do we think about the community that's in Memphis, Tennessee, where we have Elon Musk being able to power his Grok AI systems with being able to pollute literal Black communities in Memphis, Tennessee. We see that when we get into these other, videos that I have, that there are other poor communities that's seen as being exposable and disposable, and how capitalism has tricked us all into thinking that it's cool to be fuck over poor people and Black people as long as somebody's able to make a few million or a few billion. So him being Juelz Santana, being a rapper from the early 2000s, mid 2000s, a lot of them got fucked over in bad contracts. He's showing that he ain't learned from a lot of those mistakes. Because how in the hell is you advocating for people not to read the contracts and have AI read it? Media literacy getting so bad that we have a lot of people that's becoming, I'm gonna call them AI purists. They believe that artificial intelligence is done so neutrally and objectively amazing that they'll be able to feed this machine into anything, and they'll be able to push them out or spit them out something better on the other end. And it's just, when I start, like, I'm gonna have a episode of Research of a Mesearch, getting into all of the advantages, disadvantages, risks, and harms dealing with artificial intelligence, from the ways it's being incorporated into the classroom, from the way it's impacting the economy, from the way it's starting to even get at politics, and how this next election, we're going to see some deep fakes. Juelz Santana is already getting into how it's impacting the hood already, man. We don't need to read. Yeah, man, denture shifting and all that old things, man. You should have. I ain't even gonna do you like that, man. I ain't gonna do you like that, Juelz. But do better, man. Do better.
Nowadays, you can listen to a book. I just listen to the 48 Laws of Power. You
gotta read your contract, L.
You don't know. You can listen to that too. They got apps you can put it in and it'll read it to you. Are you crazy?
All of those young people of TikTok.
This video right here, man. This video I'm about to play right here is in context of me thinking about everything and all the unique things that we're experiencing under Donald Trump presidency, politically, socially, economically, from the ways he's being able to go across the Constitution and not give a damn of the standards or the restrictions that it has, or the ways he's able to just terrorize communities in ways that we haven't seen in a very long time. I'm thinking about how the Democratic Party uniquely was able to help him usher in all of the fake wins that he has, in all of the ways in which he's making American people lose at the expense of his billionaire friends, his oligarch friends winning. I'm about to play a clip about TikTok and about how Donald Trump is taking the selling of TikTok as a personal victory that he was able to instill. Now, this personal victory is important to talk about because Joe Biden kept the bill alive that Donald Trump created to make it where they were going to, quote unquote, kill TikTok. Now, we understand now this was the whole deal was for some Zionists and American companies to get together to be able to control American data and to be able to control all of the amazing narratives and education that's happening on the app of TikTok. I'm about to show y'all this clip. And in this clip, just think about how this piece of legislation that was going to originally kill this bill, the legislation could have been killed while Biden was in office. But Biden kept it alive because he has more loyalty to the government of Israel than he does the American people. Even though he tricked and bamboozled a lot of us in 2020 and saying he's going to be the president of TikTok to save TikTok, because they understood that all of the digital communities and digital realities that was being cultivated on the internet would have a spillover impact on politics. And that's the reason why so many of these politicians try to court us old TikTokers, because they see the value and they understand that the average American get their news now from TikTok and not from CNN, not from Fox News, because, hey, y'all be lying. And don't get me wrong, folks be lying on TikTok too, goddamn. But we have more Americans that believe and trust what we're saying. And even when we lie, it's easy to be able to call it out. And, you know, most of us don't double down on a lie. It's like, oh, it was a lie? All right, damn, that's crazy. Especially when it comes to politics.
I saved TikTok, so you owe me big, and now you're looking at me in the Oval Office, and someday one of you are going to be sitting right at this desk, and you're going to be doing a great job also.
Now, I know that technically this video happened before Charlie Kirk's assassination. But with the Kirkification of the internet and how we've been already been able to make a whole bunch of memes about Charlie Kirk, from him being made into mixtape and album covers to him being put on different people's head and faces, there's been a bunch of ways that we see that this virtue signaling, you know what I mean, has happened when it comes to commemorating Charlie Kirk's legacy and when it comes to being able to see him as damn near the new coming of Martin Luther King. When Donald Trump is able to make these statements, even though, again, I know it happened before Charlie Kirk's, you know what I'm saying, assassination, he's trying to appeal to the young maggots, the young conservative Republicans that all was coming out when Charlie Kirk was on his tour and he had all them young white folks coming out. That's who he was appealing to. That's who Donald Trump is trying to appeal to when he's making these statements. The Republicans have already pivoted into thinking about how can they appeal to the new voters in 2026 and in 2028 that's going to be coming of age that now can vote. When Donald Trump is saying, applaud me now because I've saved TikTok and one day you will be in this office, that's him virtue signaling to all of the young white kids to identify with him. The reason why I bring this up again is putting it in context. Goddamn, the Democrats have figured out different ways to alley-hoop this man some slam dunks, even when we know they are lies. But if y'all ain't figured it out, in the age of misinformation and disinformation, it being a lie don't even really matter no more. Like, as long as Donald Trump is able to convince his followers that it is truth, we can have all the data and all the research that proves it's the otherwise, but it don't even matter no more. It doesn't matter in a world where we have individuals that believe in alternative facts and believe that those alternative facts outweigh the expertise and outweigh the experts. Now I'm finna get ready to show y'all a video. I think there's a constant theme of capitalism in this, whether we're talking about how capitalism has tricked a bunch of our black men in our community and believing that literacy is less important. And it's not having no relationship between reading and building a business. As if once you reach a certain level, a grade level, that you have reached the pinnacle of being literate, you no longer have to think about mastering your skills of getting knowledge or skills of being able to master your reading and just only think about building a business. Because apparently, apparently running a business will not require you keeping up to date with policy and with laws. And apparently you got to have blind faith in people that you put around you, or blind faith in folks that's going to tell you what you should be reading, or blind faith into these old machines, man. I never thought I would say it like this. I felt like I just heard my grandfather's voice in me. I just heard my grandfather's voice in my head when I just said these damn machines. But man, he say them damn phones gonna get y'all and shit, man. We seeing these damn phones. But right now, I think get ready to show y'all a video of Campbell executive being put on leave after audio recording catches him saying that they soups are for poor people and that the chicken comes from a 3D printer. Right now, we getting ready for a bunch of different corporations to benefit annually for how we spend that old money on during the holiday season. Now, I ain't gonna say in cap like we just buy soup, you feel me, for being in terms of, I ain't gonna cap and act like we just buying soup to celebrate Thanksgiving or to celebrate Christmas. But while we being critical of how we spending our money this holidays, we got to keep executives like this Campbell exec in mind to think about when they talk about experiencing record high profits, they doing it at the expense of people that they shit on every day. Every day. And then when I seen this clip, I thought about all of the amazing commercials of the black NFL players and their mamas that Campbell Soup put in these goddamn commercials that they were uniquely pushing to black people. Like uniquely pushing to black people. Keep that in mind as you listen to this icky, nasty clip.
Poor people. Who buys our shit?
And that's just part of an over an hour-long rant, says former security analyst for Campbell's, Robert Garza of Monroe.
I don't buy Campbell's products barely anymore. It's unhealthy. Now that I know what the in it, Even in can of soup, I look at it, look at me, bioengineered meat. I don't want to eat a piece of chicken that came from a 3D printer. You?
The recording allegedly of Campbell's VP and Chief Information Security Officer Martin Valley.
He has no filter.
Valley, along with another supervisor and Campbell Soup Company, named in a lawsuit filed Thursday. The suit claiming Valley made racist remarks, admits to coming to work high, and Garza fired for coming forward.
What do you think about the things that he was saying?
Oh, just...
Now, I haven't done the research, but I'm willing to bet that Campbell Soup does not pay their workers very good. And I'm willing to bet that there are a lot of Campbell workers that probably are on government assistance from food stamps to HUD. When I hear about these execs being on all type of drugs and shit, I think about how they chastise poor people and saying that in order for you to get a meal, we got to drug test you. And he's able to go to the job place high. Think about that. A lot of us do not have the same energy when it comes to holding billionaires and millionaires to a certain standard that we love to chastise folks that's buying crab legs and bust down bundles with. And I find that's something that always bothers me. Is that if we creating a centered impact to say that we care about mismanagement or we care about drug abuse or we care about how individuals are leaning on government assistance, and then we have more energy for the individuals that's more lower in the hierarchy, then we had the individuals that's high in the hierarchy, it showed me that you not only have a selective moral outrage, but you've been programmed. And that we should not have so many thousandaires and hundredaires doing the dirty work and dirty business of the millionaires and the billionaires. I hope this guy wins the hell out of this Campbell's lawsuit. And I hope that this video and this, not this particular video, don't get me wrong. I hope the research over Mesearch continues to reverberate through these social media streets. But I hope that this particular audio of this Campbell exec recirculates. Because we should think about, and we should all know about the way these folks feel about us when we spend their money with them, especially when they're able to take care of their families without money that will be our hard-earned money that we spend with them. You know what I'm saying? Shit, I'm sure like 3D printed meat.
Just pure disgust.
Garza says he usually worked remotely for Campbell's headquarters based in Camden, New Jersey. But thinking he'd be discussing his salary with Valley, he says the recording taken in person at a restaurant.
They couldn't think for the like you dumb.
Garza says he felt sick after the rant, deciding to go to his direct supervisor in January, keeping the recordings to himself.
He had never had any disciplinary action. They had never written him up for poor work performance.
Garza says no one at Campbell's ever followed up, and it's taken him 10 months to find a new job, calling the way the Can Soup Company handled it simply terrible.
One thing that used to irritate me.
Whoo, okay. Okay, now if we're gonna switch gears a little bit. This is when some of my people that really rock with me, this is when I engage with what I'm gonna call purposeful provocativeness. I'm very conscious, no pun intended, that what I'm about to say in this concept and in this issue I'm about to get into is going to be very provocative and very controversial for some. Disclaimer: I am not trying to create an authenticity test for who is Black and what it means to be Black. Disclaimer: I'm not trying to trigger anybody that's ever been told that because you talk white, this means that you don't have a particular experience with anti-Blackness. But I am going to get a little bit in depth with the concept of talking white, because I do believe you can talk a color. I do believe, and I am willing to debate that language is inherently racialized. But before I get into my argument, I want y'all to hear his point and thinking critically about power and domination. And when I say power, is who gets the ability to who gets what, when, where, and how. Who gets what, when, where, and how? If it's gentlemen, if you see this video, no disrespect to you at all. I think there's a world where we can have disagreements and we can challenge each other without it going into insults. I'm sure you're a great person. You feel me? I'm not looking for anybody to attack you, if anybody see you. And listen, I thank you for making this video, because now it's provided us a great entry point to have an important conversation and some dialogue that I think that has a implication or big implications on resources and opportunities and accessibility. I'll play the clip.
When I was younger, that now that I'm older, it kind of looked dumb looking back at how I got irritated when people told me this was I speak white or I talk white. You mad that I can speak clearly and fluent, nigga? You mad that I have a more articulate dialect than you, nigga? You think I give a damn what you think I speak like? Read a book! Bitch ass nigga.
We should have spoken.
No, before I get into that, that's been a controversial one as well. But think about it, man. The reason why we speak English is because our colonizers believed that their language and customs was more superior than our ancestors. When we think about who gets to determine what it means to speak proper English, when we think about where the English language comes from, it comes from white people. The reason why we speak English is because literally our customs and our language was taken away from us. We speak English because via chain and whip. When we start thinking about how you get seen as being smart, we know that vernacular and language is a big part of how individuals view your intellect. And the ability to articulate definitely comes with some privilege. Being able to use the King's English has always gotten us proximity to the king. And the individuals that do not speak King's English or don't have the ability to speak King's English also has, some disadvantages with how they're able to get those accessibility, that access and those resources. When we start talking about our ability to speak, our ability to say what we mean, our ability to mean what we say, it also has to deal with a lot with education. And I think that being a first generation college student, I think that it's anti-Black to try to chastise individuals that don't come from a background where reading was prioritized or where they had accessibility to be able to read the books that you read. I also think that we cannot view language as being neutral and objective. When we think about how English is seen as a global language, we're seen as a global language because of how imperialism and how colonization has been able to globalize itself. And how English itself, how, man, we got countries throughout the world, nations throughout the world that have English as a part of, you feel me, the language. It's because how masterful the English was at being able to colonize. It's not ironic that I read something that was like, every 6 to 8 days, there's a different country in the world that celebrates its independence from England. Even when you said nigga a little bit, I cringed. And I'm saying this in good faith, you feel me? If you want to have a conversation about that, I'm down with that. But every time you said nigga, it seemed like it was not only anti-Black, it was like you was creating a superiority complex, you feel me? But I understand you were speaking from that hurt. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we talk about people saying like, you speak white, no, I just speak educated. Like, whiteness is always wants to go unidentified. And when we talk about different languages, to try to say that these languages has nothing to do with race or racism, I think that it's not only being purposely obtuse, it's empirically false. The last thing I say about this is, it's not ironic that when you're able to emulate more of the standard of what white people say, what's considered proper, you're able to get more access to opportunity and resources. It's also not ironic that when it comes to African-American vernacular English, because you know there's a different dialect within how Black people speak. And I ain't saying all Black folks say, you feel me, you know what I'm saying? I ain't saying all Black folks speak Ebonics, but I am talking about how there's a particular pathology for how Black people that do speak African-American vernacular and how we're able to get access, opportunity, and resources. And when you have this idea that speaking proper English or speaking proper always, you know what I'm saying, correlates to intellect, or always correlates to this legitimacy, that literally perpetuates the pathology that people who don't speak this type of vernacular, you know what I'm saying, or African-American vernacular English, it perpetuates them being seen as not worthy of getting certain shit. Or it perpetuates the idea that once I hear certain vernacular, certain Ebonics, certain slang, that I should start to believe a person has a certain knowledge base, or capacity, or a certain intellect. That's all bad. And when we start talking about language, and start making it like it's neutral and objective, that leads to that. Now, I'm not gonna say that there are not Black people that have a bunch of racial trauma that has been given to them by our own people because you've had your Blackness trivialized because you had a person say you're not Black enough or you ain't Black because you speak this way. I do think that is also bad. I do think that there's a multiplicity in Blackness and Black people, but I do believe even in thinking about the multiplicity and Blackness and Black people and how Black folks are the monolith, we still can be real about how certain ways we think and certain ways we speak, how it puts us more in proximity to whiteness and how it allows for us to quote unquote assimilate. A lot of us talk about ain't no such thing as talking this and talking that. It's like, what does it mean to assimilate? And what does assimilate? How do you define assimilation? And does assimilation have any relationship to language? Oh, it does? Oh shit. Now we starting to get into how you, you know what I mean? This next topic, man. Donald Trump is fucking up. And we can walk and chew gum at the same time by being able to see that the unique ways of how Donald Trump is fucking up this country, and still being able to think about what happened during that election. This clip right here is Kamala Harris talking about what she could have done and would have done during the election, specifically when it comes to Palestine and Israel. There was a bit of backlash that I faced a few months ago, 2 months ago, because somebody had manufactured a narrative that said that, you know, I was anti-Kamala Harris in every way, in every instance, and I was saying vote for Juelz Stein, and that people like me shouldn't be able to complain about Donald Trump because I said that, you know, we shouldn't vote for Kamala Harris. Though that was false, there were a lot of individuals that's been having some shit they want to get off their chest about old consciously, and they were able to buy into this false narrative to say a whole bunch of shit about my politics, about my wife, and about how they think and feel that everybody should have a parasocial relationship with politicians, and how, you know, private citizens can't be criticized, but consciously a private citizen can be criticized for I'll get into that for later, but I want to play this clip because I think that it's important to get into what she actually said, what Kamala Harris actually said about what she regrets when it comes to Palestine and Israel.
About our criticism of the way that Netanyahu and his government were executing this war. We should have done more as an administration. We had more levers in terms of leverage that we did not use. And I write about this in the book. I look at this moment and I am happy that
we should have did more, we could have did more. I want to make sure I ain't hear that. I want to make sure I heard that correctly.
Netanyahu and his government were executing this war. We should have done more as an administration. We had more levers in terms of leverage that we did not use. And I write about this in the book. I look at this moment and I am happy that there is a ceasefire. We will see how long it lasts, that the hostages have been returned. But let's be very clear, inhuman.
I appreciate her making this statement and her being critical about what she could have done different and what the administration could have done differently when it comes to Israel-Palestine. And me being critical in what she's saying, the return of the hostages and her talking about hostages, that is still a Zionist speaking point that wants to center and prioritize Israeli violence and violence towards Israeli people, where they put it above the astronomically more bloodshed and more bodies that's been taken away on Palestine side. You feel me? So even in this explanation, we still see people being critical that, hey, some of the language she using is still capitulating in terms of some of these Zionist speaking points. Now, to me, this is funny and ironic because a lot of individuals that still believe that consciously was so this, that, and the other, like, you know, it was a woman that made some statements about me and said that I was being paid by AIPAC to push Zionist speaking points. And she understood that was bad in that instance. But even though I'm not obviously being paid by AIPAC, Free Palestine, you know what I'm saying? Palestine deserves to exist and deserves our ability to defend itself, goddamn. There was to me a Freudian slip. So you can acknowledge if you believe consciously it's being paid by AIPAC that it's bad. But if I say Kamala Harris is being paid by AIPAC that's bad, you tell me it ain't the time for that. And you can't criticize. Language is important. Language has words. I mean, language has words. Language is important. Language has meaning.
Has happened to the Palestinian people in Gaza, the innocent civilians, the extent of hunger, famine, suffering, death is something that we must acknowledge. And I recognize that.
The first tribe to encounter the so-called...
Before I get into the American settler colonialism, you know what I'm saying? Let's I ain't even gonna sit on here too long, because I know it really pissed people off when you use your democratic tools and freedom of being able to protest, petition, and be critical of politicians. It pisses y'all off when the politician y'all love, even though right now y'all talking about saving democracy and saving all the tools and freedoms that we have in democracy. I spare me on that. You feel what I'm saying? We disagree. You know, in our disagreement, it's important for us to have some type of stasis point. Starvation is bad. Famine is bad. You know, genocide is bad. In this speech, I still think that it's important that she doesn't name it genocide. And in this speech, I think it's important to acknowledge that when we talk about what will happen in 2028, that Vice President Kamala Harris does not rule out a rerunning for the office in that spot. So I feel like when we start talking about her being a private citizen, it's just a way for her to be insulated from criticism, especially because a lot of us on the internet that say that we either A, make a living, or B, make a hobby out of criticizing and talking shit about private citizens. Second thing is, moving into 2028, thinking about how much the Muslim Arab population has impacts on elections, thinking about how much, you know, money is going to Zionists and how much Zionist money is going to politicians, this Israel-Palestine topic is not going away. It's not going away. Just like it didn't go away when Kamala Harris became the nominee, just like it's not going away now that Trump is in office. We had a ceasefire. That ceasefire lasted for maybe a couple of hours because we know that Israel does not care about any treaties or ceasefires, a lot like the American government. And I think that the settler colonialism that's happening in Palestine brings us right into this conversation and celebration of Thanksgiving, and how I think that the reason why America feels cool and Israel being its ally is because the global community watched America do a lot of the settler colonizing to indigenous folks here in America. That's now happened to Palestinians, and it was cool. When I learned about more about Hawaiian history, especially when we had those Hawaiian Hawaiian fires, I seen how, you know, America was able to go against all of the international laws and illegally annexing Hawaii, a colony, and being able to wipe out the king, being able to wipe out the people, and really even seeing that white businessmen in this country has always had the ability to impact policy, and the government has always been a tool for rich white men to be able to get resources and to be able to have a stockpile of a bunch of, land and resources. So settler colonialism with the American government, you know, and it won't be important. I get, and I'm sympathetic to individuals being like, if we can acknowledge that these hostages that Kamala Harris is talking about and the famine that Kamala Harris is talking about didn't start in Trump's presidency, and we can acknowledge that it didn't start in Biden's presidency, how is it that we have so many individuals that want to criticize the Biden administration and criticize Kamala Harris for a problem that had been happening for a long time. I feel like, though that on a surface level, that sounds very persuasive, we know that just like when an individual gets in the office, every single thing that they dealing with in office happened before they was happening was an experience before they got in the office. Whether we're talking about healthcare, whether we're talking about criminalization of reproductive justice, whether we're talking about criminal justice, whether we're talking about the education system being fucked off, all these things were already a problem before these people got in the office, but it was something they seen that being in office, they had the power to influence. They had the power to impact. So I think that it is being not only in bad faith and intellectually, obtuse. I feel like you're not being real when you say, so how can we put all this on this individual? It's like, nah, when you in office, you have power and you have jurisdiction to impact certain things. And even what Kamala Harris said in her video is that we had more levers of power that we could have used. And we had more things we could have done. I don't think it's real when y'all start to chastise and start to go after particular leftists because y'all believe they're the reason why the election was lost. I don't think there's not no leftist I can think about that has more influence than Beyonce. There is no leftist that I think has more influence than Cardi B or Meg Thee Stallion. These are all individuals that came in and campaigned for Kamala Harris. If Kamala Harris can come out and say, this is something I wish I could have done differently, I don't know why y'all get so mad when individuals point out, hey, this is something I wish you would have did differently. And for me, political literacy, for me, political consciousness, for me, is about how you are supposed to always already hold politicians critical because they ain't our grandma, they ain't our mama, they ain't our auntie. You feel me? They are public figures that have they're public figures that are indebted to getting our support, not the other way around. The last thing I say on this, man, is we made fun of Trumpsters. We made fun of Trump supporters. We made fun of them, shit, really all the way from 2015 from saying y'all are in a cult. Y'all have no ability to criticize y'all leader, and anytime they do something bad or anytime they do something that deserves to be criticized, y'all throw a hissy fit and or have a whole bunch of backlash and want to fight because somebody criticized your politician. Y'all have no integrity. That's what we told. It's everything we told Trumpsters. It's everything we told MAGA supporters. Y'all have no integrity and you're in a cult because you have no ability to hold your leader accountable or responsible for when they do things. Even so much you feel like any criticism is an attack towards you. That's what we told Trumpsters. And now a lot of y'all doing the same thing. And listen, we disagree. If you disagree, we disagree. We disagree. We disagree. We disagree. That's fine. We disagree. You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, shit done got so ugly that we chastised Trumpsters for saying y'all have lost the art of disagreeing. Just for a bunch of liberals and a bunch of centrists and Democrats to drink the same Kool-Aid and lose the art of disagreeing. This is bad. That's real bad, man. But from settler colonialism in the Middle East to settler colonialism in America, I'll let Bo speak for a little bit and then we'll get into it.
Was the Wampanoag, known as the people of the first light. This is just one of hundreds of tribes across Turtle Island. Myth number 2, Europeans brought civilization to Native Americans. Nothing can be further from the truth. The reality is the Pilgrims would have never survived without the assistance of the Wampanoag. They even robbed Native American graves to feed themselves and nearly starved to death in the first year. In contrast,
power always wants to pervert reality and it usually inverts it. Settler colonialism in America has been justified and taking Native American land and, raping them and killing them has been justified because they've been calling them savages, calling them cannibals. Here, history sees that actually it was the inverse when it comes to savages and when it comes to cannibalism and when it comes to being barbaric animals. Thanksgiving, in a lot of ways, is a manifestation of the settlers' move to innocence. It's an academic term that comes from tucking yang, something I learned when I was in debate. I'm gonna let this play a little bit longer, and then I'm gonna give y'all a definition of settler colonialism as well as the settlers' move to innocence.
The Wampanoag and other tribes were thriving, living in self-sufficient communities long before settlers ever arrived. Myth number 3, there was a Thanksgiving dinner between the Pilgrims and Native Americans. The reality is Native peoples had their own Thanksgiving ceremonies that they had been practicing since time immemorial. The idea of a shared Thanksgiving dinner is one of the most persistent falsehoods. In reality, the Wampanoag helped the settlers survive. They provided food and assistance and taught them how to grow Native American crops. Myth number 4, Native Americans were easily pushed off their lands.
According to Tuck and Yang, settler colonialism is a system where settlers colonize a territory by displacing or eliminating the indigenous population to establish a new society. Settlers' move to innocence, according to Tuck and Yang, are actions taken by settlers to avoid confronting their complicity in the system, such as feigning guilt without making real changes, claiming indigenous ancestry to absolve themselves, or using superficial language like decolonization to avoid accountability. These are all moves that are seen as a way to maintain the benefits of settler privilege without changing the underlying structures of power and control. I would argue that the celebration of Thanksgiving is a manifestation of the settlers' move to innocence that allows for the descendants of European settlers to see themselves as benevolent colonizers or benevolent descendants of immigrants that can just now enjoy all of the colonial violence and products of colonial violence without ever being seen as being complicit or being seen as the beneficiaries of that colonial violence. What this man has done in this video, which I also want to say, which was weird to me, is that in a world where we have the internet and a lot of us is able to have our voices seen and heard, it blew my mind of how hard I had to look to find a native voice giving me the history, the real true history of indigeneity when it comes to Thanksgiving. Like the indigenous erasure is so real in this country that we'll have motherfuckers fight more harder to have a Native American mascot than they will fight to understand the existence and sovereignty of Native Americans. And I feel like that's a part of the indigenous, you know what I'm saying, erasure. Hey, it took me so long to find a video of a Native American giving Native American history on Thanksgiving that it really made me sit with how this country is embedded on genocide of Native Americans. It made me sit with, too, how America is usually the allies of a bunch of countries around this world that's also structured and situated on settler colonial violence towards the indigenous subject that's always justified because the colonizers are going to make your land better. A lot of people in college, I went to University of Oklahoma. University of Oklahoma is the Boomer Sooners, literally a settler colonial battle cry that happened in the Homestead Run Act or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? When we had the westward expansion. You know what I mean? We know that that Oklahoma was supposed to be Indian territory, but when we started trying to have capitalism and industrialization, and we started trying to have these old trains and train tracks go from the East Coast to the West Coast, it incentivized the government giving a whole bunch of more native land to white folks. That's where my alma mater come in, Boomer Sooner. So now I'm sitting and thinking about the various ways that Thanksgiving is able to push this old indigenous erasure. And even when it comes to pumpkin and pumpkin spice, hey, white folks are so good at colonizing. They done made it seem as if pumpkins are their cultural thing, when pumpkins and pumpkin spice has been a part of indigenous customs, indigenous cuisine for thousands of years. Pumpkins are germane and pumpkins are indigenous to Turtle Island, to the Americas, not over to Europe. You see what I'm saying? This how grateful and this how massive European colonization is, man. And this is how, too, we have to sit with this idea of how a lot of people want to correlate what's normalized to what's naturalized, and you believe because it is normal, it's natural. I know a lot of folks gonna be able to say, man, don't you feel that the same thing when it comes to trans and shit like that? When I talk about and get into my lecture about normalization and naturalization, come on here, I'll school you. If you want to debate about it, I can bust your ass on it as well, and I'll get to that. But when it comes to settler colonialism and colonialism, it's a bunch of ways that we normalize colonial violence. And we believe because it's normalized, we believe it's natural. Well, everybody colonizes, and if the white folks didn't do it to them, they would do it to the white folks. Like, nah, this is how we start to rationalize with colonial violence. The last thing I'll say before I let this video play is that in this myth you're gonna get into about the Native Americans being easily defeated, there is a fake warrior, fake, what's what I'm looking for here? Conqueror. What a fake warrior conqueror narrative in this country that says that the reason why Native Americans lost is because they were easily defeated and they ain't fight hard enough. Do y'all know that the American government has broken over 500 treaties? Over here with my fireplace. Do you know that American government has broken over 500 treaties with Native Americans that's resulted in a bunch of land theft? While I was in the state of Oklahoma, can't think of the tribe right now, but in eastern Oklahoma, they were in a legal battle with the state of Oklahoma because the state of Oklahoma really didn't have jurisdiction over East Oklahoma because this tribe, in fact, had much more political jurisdiction and power over what was happening there. And it was impacting who was going to jail, how it was going to jail. And when I first moved to Oklahoma, I even seen how Waters, it was Cherokee, Choctaw. Shout out to my boy right here, man. Shout out to our boy, right? Hey, and shout out to all the Black Chuttas, and shout out to all the Freedmen Cherokee people. And with that being said, all my Black Aboriginals, man, listen. I know we didn't have beef in the past. Listen. I do believe that Black Indigenous people exist. I've met many of them. What we disagree is that when you start to universalize Black indigeneity by saying that we all was here before white folks was this, and we the real Native Americans, that's when I start to have a little bit of a cathartic response, and that's when I start to feel like you engaging in the indigenous erasure. To be clear, Black Seminoles, Black Chuttas, you feel me, Black Choctaws, how everyone some people say that, yes, they exist. You feel me? The Gullah Geechee Wars, yes, I understand that a lot of us mixed in, a lot of us were here before too. There were a lot of us that understood the world went round before Europeans knew the world was round, and we were already circumnavigating the world. I'm not negating that as well, but also too, Ivan Van Sertima, his research has been taken to task and debunked by some people, but I don't think it negates that there were African people that were still able to circumnavigate the world. I'm gonna be clear on that. My point, however, is there are various ways that different cultures and different identities in this whole America, how we internalize and regurgitate the indigenous erasure. And I think that that's one of the examples. I hope that, even though I know the art of disagreeing, and even some people being able to understand nuances is like lost, I hope that, you feel me, my nuance was purposeful. Shout out to the multiplicity of Blackness and Black people. You feel me, the Black Jews, Black Hebrew Israelites, the Black Aboriginals, the Black Muslims, the Moors, you know what I'm saying? FBI, shout out to all of the different ways that Black folks show up and Black people present, Black people express themselves.
Native people fought settler colonialism from the beginning. They resisted displacement and violence, and that struggle exists even today. The Land Back movement, MMIW, the struggle to protect treaty rights, and the protection of sacred sites are just a few examples. Here's the dark reality about Thanksgiving that we're rarely taught. In 1637, the Puritans actually did celebrate a Thanksgiving. This was after massacring nearly 1,000 Pequot women and children. This is known as the Mystic River Massacre. They literally burned these people alive. And after the so-called Great Victory, John Winthrop declared a day of thanks. So for Thanksgiving, they were celebrating genocide. And whatever happened to the Wampanoag? Well, during King Philip's War, they were nearly driven to extinction. Okay, last myth. This happened over 400 years ago, so you people should get over it. Here's the reality. Colonialism is not a thing of the past. Native peoples continue to fight for sovereignty, for their rights and justice. Decolonizing Thanksgiving means understanding the truth. honoring Native people, and challenging all the settler colonial propaganda we were taught in school. In the comment section,
my little call to action on this episode of Research Over Mesearch. I hope I've been able to increase your vocabulary, introduce you to some new words and concepts, as well as giving you some historical context around those, whether we're talking about settler colonialism or the settlers moved to innocence. My call to action is that as a lot of y'all, as a lot of us get ready to celebrate Thanksgiving, that we are very intentional about wherever we at, giving acknowledgement and giving identity or identifying what land we own when we celebrate. So whether you in Houston, whether you in Brooklyn, whether you in St. Louis or Miami, I encourage you to do a little research and figure out what specific tribes in the city that you celebrating Thanksgiving in, and think about all the sacrifices that tribe and families had to sacrifice in order for us to celebrate this old holiday. I like to call it Thanks-taking. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my debate partner, Rashid. You know what I'm saying? Rashid Campbell. Shout out to everybody in East Oakland. Everybody at, you know what I'm saying, Skyline High School. Shout out to y'all. Shout out to everybody in Bay Urban Debate League too, man. Shout out to y'all. But my boy Rashid introduced me to this term, Thanks-taking. And I think that it's one that always calls into question and always reality checks us on the way that we romanticize settler colonialism, in the ways that we gloss over how colonial violence has made this world possible in more ways than some. Even thinking about the ways that Africa has been colonized, and even thinking about the ways that, you know, South Afrikaners settler colonized South Africa. You know, power is the ability to define the phenomenon and make it act in a desired manner. That's a Huey P. Newton quote. He's the founder of the co-founder of the Black Panther Party. He also had a quote that he said, "We should think globally and act locally." I hope in every episode of Research Over Mesearch, if you're not able to, you know, get to your YouTube or your Substack, that you're able to get to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, where these episodes be. I know I ain't uploaded them yet, but they're gonna be there soon. And that you're able to go to Substack and get the access to the research of the terms and a nice community where we having conversations about the things I talk about in these episodes over on Substack. Research Over Mesearch on Substack. Education is elevation, man. Shout out to the haters, shout out to the supporters. Appreciate y'all all. This has been another episode of Research Over Mesearch. Every Wednesday morning, 10:30 Central. Lock in with me. I know I was doing 9:30 Central PM. That shit ain't working out for you, boy, man. By the time I get to the nighttime, I'm getting older. My kids getting older. So not only do I have not as much energy I used to have, my kids require more energy because they're older now. So shit, I have more energy in the morning, obviously. You know what I mean? I'm trying to get into these streaming a little bit more. So let me know some topics that y'all want to hear about. And also, I'm curious too. I'll be down to do like a little like debate. You know what I'm saying? It's 10:30 a.m. Central Time. Education is elevation.
Spontaneous percussion.
Somebody said, I ain't even, hey, truth will set you free. I'm gonna answer that question in the video, man. I'm gonna answer that question. You should go over to